Pressure reveals the truth about a person. It strips away the layers of pretense, burns through the excuses, and forces the soul to either rise with clarity or collapse under confusion. In the silence between stimulus and response, in that fleeting moment where the weight of decision crushes the chest, destiny is shaped. A man is not defined by what he does in comfort, but by what he decides when his back is against the wall, when the outcome is uncertain, when failure and triumph stand side by side demanding his verdict. That is where life demands. Who are you? What do you believe in? What will you choose? Most people falter in this furnace because they never train their mind to stand still under fire. They confuse impulse with instinct, panic with urgency, hesitation with wisdom. But the ones who shape history, Edison with no guarantee his light would burn Lincoln under the collapse of a divided nation. Carnegie, when poverty mocked his ambition, these were men who made choices under unbearable pressure and decided to never retreat. They trained their inner dialogue until their mind obeyed, until the chaos outside could not shake the certainty inside. Pressure is not the enemy, it is the sculptor. It chisels the marble of your life into something defined, sharp, undeniable. Every decision you make under pressure cuts away who you are not, and leaves only who you are willing to become. If you run, the sculpture is left half-formed, incomplete. If you face it, you discover that choice is not about the pressure itself, but about your clarity in spite of it. To make better choices under pressure, you must master the battlefield within the clash of fear and faith, doubt and vision, hesitation and boldness. The mind under pressure whispers every possibility of failure. What if I lose? What if they laugh? What if I'm not enough? But beneath the noise lies a still commanding voice that says, decide, move, trust. The tragedy is that most never dig deep enough to hear it. They yield to fear because it screams louder than faith. Think of the young Thomas Edison after hundreds of failed experiments, each one a reminder that he might be chasing an impossible dream. Investors doubted him. Scientists mocked him. Yet under that pressure, he refused to collapse into despair. His choice was not dictated by the voices of failure. It was guided by his inner certainty that one more attempt might be the one. Pressure did not silence him. It made his vision roar louder than his setbacks. That is the secret. You do not escape pressure. You learn to direct it. Every man and woman will encounter crossroads where every option looks heavy, where either path carries risk. Some choose comfort thinking they have avoided pain, but comfort is its own prison. It suffocates slowly, leaving no glory, no legacy. The ones who choose growth even when the ground shakes beneath them are the ones who discover a truth most never dare to face. The pressure is proof that the decision matters. Pressure is the indicator that life is handing you a defining moment. When the heat rises, your emotions will try to take control. Anger blinds fear, paralyzes doubt, distracts. That is why Napoleon Hill wrote that definiteness of purpose is the master key. A mind anchored in a clear purpose does not drown in the flood of emotion. It rises above it. Under pressure, the man without purpose asks, "What should I do?" The man with purpose declares, "This is what must be done." The difference is not intelligence, it is certainty. But certainty does not appear overnight. It is forged in the small decisions no one sees. The discipline to wake when you'd rather sleep. The courage to say no when temptation claws at you. The endurance to persist when applause fades and the work feels invisible. Every small choice builds the muscle of decision-making. Then, when life throws the crushing weight of pressure upon you, you don't crumble. You stand because you have stood 1,000 times before when no one was watching. Pressure exposes your preparation. If you feed your mind with weakness, you will default to weakness. If you feed it with strength, you will default to strength. That is why belief and autosuggestion are not mere philosophy, they are survival. When the storm comes, your subconscious will command you according to what you trained it to believe. If you programmed fear, you will obey fear. If you programmed faith, you will obey faith. Under pressure, the conscious mind often falters, but the subconscious acts instantly. That is why Edison declared his persistence. That is why Lincoln held his resolve, while others begged him to compromise. That is why Ford ignored ridicule when he said he would build a car for the masses. Their minds were trained long before the pressure arrived. Listen to me, the worst decision you can make under pressure is indecision. To hesitate to wait for certainty is to allow fear to write your destiny. Life rewards the one who decides, even if imperfectly, because decision creates momentum and momentum breeds clarity. The longer you hesitate, the louder fear becomes, until it drowns out action entirely. Under pressure, the bold choose. The weak wait. And waiting is a choice that always costs more than action. Every choice you make under pressure teaches your mind a lesson. Choose faith once, and your faith grows stronger. Choose fear once, and fear grows louder. Each choice compounds into identity. You are not simply making decisions, you are building the self who will face the next battle. And life will never stop testing you. So ask yourself, what identity am I forging with the choices I make today? Picture a soldier in battle bullets, flying smoke, thick fear clawing at his throat. He does not have the luxury of certainty, but he must choose advance, retreat, hold. His decision will determine not only his fate, but the lives of those beside him. That is life in microcosm. Every day, though less visible, you are on that battlefield. Pressure presses against your chest. Doubt whispers. The question remains, will you act as the commander of your mind or as its captive? The answer lies in presence. The greatest mistake under pressure is to let the mind scatter into 100 imagined futures. But power comes from anchoring in the present moment. One breath, one choice, one step. When Carnegie faced his decision to leave his job as a telegraph boy and step into business, he had no guarantee. He only had the present choice: stay small or dare to rise. He chose. And history remembers his daring, not his doubt. Understand, this pressure is a privilege. It means you are alive in a moment that matters. Do not curse it. Do not run from it. Welcome it as the fire that shapes you into something sharper than you were before. Because the truth is, pressure is not there to break you, it is there to reveal you. And if you learn to stand in that fire with courage, clarity, and faith, you will discover that pressure does not crush diamonds, it creates them. Every choice under pressure feels like walking a tightrope between two worlds, the world you know and the world you want. One step too hesitant, and you stay trapped in the life you're trying to outgrow. One step too bold, and fear tells you that you might fall into ruin. Yet here's the paradox: the rope only feels dangerous if you look down. If you keep your eyes fixed on the destination, every step strengthens you. It is not the rope that wavers, it is your faith. Inside the human mind lives a battlefield of voices. One whispers, play it safe, retreat, do nothing, you can't fail if you don't try. Another whispers, this is your chance, take it, trust that you can rise. Under pressure, these voices scream for dominance. And in that storm, you must ask yourself, which voice have I been feeding daily? Because the one you feed in silence is the one that will roar when life tests you. Napoleon Hill warned that drifting, allowing your mind to be ruled by fear and indecision, is the most dangerous state of all. Under pressure, drifters collapse because they never anchored themselves in purpose. They hesitate, they stall, and in that hesitation, opportunity vanishes. Those who win under pressure are those who already decided who they are long before the storm came. Pressure does not create your character, it exposes it. Napoleon Hill warned that drifting, allowing your mind to be ruled by fear and indecision, is the most dangerous state of all. Under pressure, drifters collapse because they never anchored themselves in purpose. They hesitate, they stall, and in that hesitation, opportunity vanishes. Those who win under pressure are those who already decided who they are long before the storm came. Pressure does not create your character, it exposes it. Think of Abraham Lincoln. The country was tearing itself apart, his advisors were panicking, and his enemies were sharpening their knives. The pressure to compromise, to step back, to yield for the sake of peace was immense. Yet he made the harder choice to hold the Union together, to fight for an ideal larger than himself. History remembers him not because he faced no pressure, but because he faced unbearable pressure and chose clarity over collapse. His decisions were not born in calm, they were born in fire. When you are under pressure, you will feel your heartbeat quicken, your breath shorten, your mind racing with worst-case scenarios. That is the natural response of the body. But here lies the secret. You are not your body's panic, you are the commander of it. The one who breathes slower when everything inside wants to rush. The one who pauses for clarity when chaos demands reaction. The one who decides, I will not let pressure dictate my choice. I will dictate pressure with my choice. Pressure sharpens a vision. Think of the moments in your life where you were forced to decide quickly, leaving a toxic environment, saying yes to an opportunity you feared, taking responsibility when it was easier to hide. In those moments, clarity cut through the noise. You realized that hesitation was more painful than action. That truth still applies. The mind magnifies pressure into mountains, but the moment you choose the mountain reduces to a step. This is why imagination is not a luxury, it is survival. Under pressure, you must see beyond the immediate chaos into the future you are building. You must imagine yourself on the other side of the decision, stronger, freer, unstoppable. That vision becomes the compass when your emotions try to blind you. Edison did not simply see wires and filaments. He imagined a world lit by electricity, a vision so powerful that the pressure of thousands of failures could not shake it. That same power lives in you if you dare to hold your vision under fire. Discipline is your ally. When pressure tempts you to fold, discipline whispers, stay steady, follow through, trust your training. Athletes know this truth. Under the lights with the crowd roaring, they don't rely on inspiration. They rely on the discipline forged in empty gyms and quiet mornings. In life, the same law applies. Pressure reveals whether you trained your mind daily with focused gratitude and persistence, or whether you drifted in distraction. Resilience means not only standing once, but standing again and again when pressure knocks you flat. Every failure under pressure is not the end, it is the refinement. The greatest leaders and creators were not those who never made wrong choices, but those who kept making choices even after wrong ones. Pressure is not asking you to be perfect, it is asking you to persist. Resilience means not only standing once, but standing again and again when pressure knocks you flat. Every failure under pressure is not the end, it is the refinement. The greatest leaders and creators were not those who never made wrong choices, but those who kept making choices even after wrong ones. Pressure is not asking you to be perfect, it is asking you to persist. But understand this deeply, pressure will never leave you. The more you grow, the heavier it becomes. Success does not erase pressure, it multiplies it. The difference is that each time you stand, you become less shaken, less doubtful, less fragile. You transform into someone who can look pressure in the eye and say, "You will not break me, you will make me." But understand this deeply, pressure will never leave you. The more you grow, the heavier it becomes. Success does not erase pressure, it multiplies it. The difference is that each time you stand, you become less shaken, less doubtful, less fragile. You transform into someone who can look pressure in the eye and say, "You will not break me, you will make me." And then comes gratitude. When you look back on the choices you made under pressure, the ones that terrified you, the ones that demanded sacrifice, you realize they shaped you far more than the easy days ever could. Gratitude turns pressure into privilege. It transforms what once felt unbearable into the very reason you are stronger today. So, the next time pressure grips your chest, remember this truth. You are not being punished. You are being invited. Invited to decide who you really are. Invited to prove to yourself that you can command your mind, your fear, your doubt. Invited to make a choice that echoes far beyond the moment. Because in the end, your life is not defined by the calm. It is defined by the storms you walked through and the choices you dared to make while thunder roared. And if you learn to make better choices under pressure, you will discover that pressure was never your enemy. It was the silent hand of destiny molding you into greatness. There will always be that split second, barely noticeable to the outside world, where the weight of the universe seems to collapse onto your chest. The moment when the opportunity is in front of you, but so is the fear. That instant is sacred. It is the doorway between two futures, one where you remain the same, and one where you step into everything you were meant to be. And only you decide which world you walk into. Most people misinterpret pressure as a signal to retreat. They see the pounding heart, the trembling hands, the racing thoughts, and think this means I'm not ready. But in truth, that is the body's way of announcing. This moment matters. Pay attention. Rise higher. The fire in your chest is not warning. It is awakening. It means you've stepped onto the battlefield of transformation, and now the question is not whether the battle exists, but whether you will fight. Pressure demands self-awareness. If you don't know yourself, pressure will use that against you. Your insecurities, your unhealed fears, your buried doubts, all rise to the surface when life turns up the heat. This is why inner work is not optional. If you have never faced your weaknesses, they will sabotage you when decisions matter most. But if you have looked yourself in the eye, your flaws, your shadows, your truth, then pressure cannot weaponize them against you. You will know. Yes, I am afraid, but fear is not the end of me. Yes, I have failed before, but failure is not my master. Think of Henry Ford. He faced relentless skepticism. Banks refused him. Competitors mocked him. Experts swore the automobile was a fad. Every decision he made carried the pressure of ridicule and financial risk. But Ford had studied himself, knew his vision, knew the hunger in his soul. So while others collapsed under the judgment of society, he moved forward with certainty. He didn't wait for pressure to vanish. He mastered himself until pressure could not steer him away. That is why definiteness of purpose is everything. Without it, pressure will crush you because you will have no anchor. But with it, the storm only makes you grip tighter. A clear purpose transforms pressure from a weight into a compass. Instead of asking, "What if I fail?" you begin asking, "Will this decision move me closer to my purpose or farther away?" That clarity cuts through fear like a blade. Do not underestimate the power of faith. Not blind faith, not naive optimism, but the fierce faith born from decision. Faith is the ability to say, "I do not know how this will work out, but I know who I am, I know where I'm going, and I refuse to collapse." Faith is the fuel that allows you to walk through fire without being consumed. When Andrew Carnegie rose from the dirt floors of a Scottish weaver's cottage to become one of the wealthiest men in history, it wasn't because pressure avoided him, it was because he carried faith through every decision, through every storm. Here's the brutal truth: under pressure, your excuses reveal themselves. I'm too tired. I'm not ready. I'll do it later. Maybe someone else should. Those words are the death of greatness. They are the whispers of mediocrity that beg you to surrender. But pressure has no patience for excuses. The world does not stop spinning because you are uncomfortable. The opportunity will not wait for you to feel safe. Pressure demands that you rise in spite of the excuses screaming inside you. And here is where imagination enters again, not as fantasy, but as the architect of courage. When you imagine yourself on the other side of the decision, when you see the life built by daring to act, when you feel the pride of victory before it arrives, you steal the power from fear. Pressure loses its teeth when the vision of your future becomes more real to you than the fear of the present. But imagination alone is not enough. It must be married with action. A choice under pressure is only powerful when followed by movement. You can't simply decide in your mind and wait. The universe honors momentum, not hesitation. Every great builder, leader, and creator carried this truth. Edison didn't stop at the idea of light. He tested, he failed, he tried again. Lincoln didn't stop at the dream of unity. He enacted policy, he made hard calls. Action turns the weight of pressure into the fire of transformation. When you are under pressure, do not seek escape. Seek mastery. Ask yourself, what is this pressure teaching me about myself? What weakness is it revealing? What strength is it demanding I unleash? If you treat pressure as your instructor instead of your executioner, every trial becomes training. You stop running from the fire and start shaping yourself within it. And remember, indecision is still a decision. To delay, to avoid, to hope that pressure passes is to silently choose failure. Life rewards the bold, not the hesitant. When the door opens, you either walk through it or you let it close forever. And often that door will never open the same way again. So stand tall in the heat of pressure. Breathe when your lungs want to collapse. Command your mind when it wants to scatter. Declare your choice not with fear, but with clarity. For in that decision lies the birth of destiny. Because greatness is not built in calm waters. It is forged in the storms of pressure, where every choice is a hammer strike shaping the iron of your soul. And yet pressure is relentless. It does not knock once and leave. It circles back again and again, testing the very fiber of who you are. The question is not whether you will face pressure, it is how you will face it each time it returns. Will you grow sharper, more disciplined, more unshakable, or will you let it erode your courage piece by piece? The truth is this: every time you respond to pressure with strength, you expand your capacity. The ceiling of what you can endure rises. What once felt impossible becomes manageable. What once terrified you becomes a warm-up. This is how warriors are built, not in the absence of pressure, but in repeated exposure until pressure itself bows to their mind. There is a moment in every decision where silence fills the soul, where you realize that no one else can make this choice for you. Friends may advise, mentors may guide, critics may mock, but in the end, you alone must stand in the furnace. That loneliness is part of the process. Do not despise it, do not resist it, embrace it, for it means you are walking a path reserved for leaders, creators, visionaries. Think of the Wright brothers. With limited resources, no credentials, and the entire world laughing at the notion of man taking flight, the pressure to abandon their dream was overwhelming. Failure after failure, crash after crash, ridicule after ridicule. Yet they continued, not because pressure was absent, but because their vision was stronger than the weight pressing down on them. And when their invention finally lifted off the ground, it was not a machine that flew. It was faith, persistence, and courage in physical form. That is what pressure can do for you, turn invisible strength into visible reality. But beware, pressure will tempt you with shortcuts. When the weight feels unbearable, you will hear whispers. Compromise a little. Take the easier path. Abandon your standards just this once. And many fall for it, believing relief is worth the price. But relief fades while regret lingers. The choice you make under pressure becomes part of your identity. Each compromise makes it easier to compromise again until you no longer recognize yourself. But each act of integrity makes it easier to stand taller the next time until you become immovable. So when pressure tempts you to break, remember this: the discomfort of discipline lasts a moment, but the pain of regret can last a lifetime. This is why gratitude is essential. Gratitude reframes pressure from enemy to ally. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" you begin to say, "Thank you for trusting me with this test. Thank you for showing me I am ready for more." Gratitude turns the fire of pressure into fuel, reminding you that growth is not supposed to feel comfortable. It is supposed to feel like breaking, stretching, expanding. That is how you know you are alive. Modern life hides this truth. Everywhere you look, comfort is being sold. Easy solutions, instant gratification, escape at every corner. But comfort breeds weakness, and weakness collapses under pressure. If you want to live a life that matters, you must be willing to reject the illusion of ease and embrace the challenge that pressure brings. Because pressure is not here to destroy you, it is here to prepare you for the weight of the life you are asking for. Consider this: you cannot carry the crown of success if you cannot carry the weight of decision. Every king, every leader, every innovator bore the crushing responsibility of choice. They did not inherit calm, they inherited storms. And yet by standing tall in those storms, they proved themselves worthy of the throne. You too are being tested for a crown. Every pressure is asking you, are you ready to carry more? Are you willing to choose clarity over fear, faith over doubt, action over hesitation? The greatest tragedy is not failure under pressure. It is never realizing that the pressure was a gift, a calling to rise higher. Do not waste it. Do not despise it. Step into it, breathe through it, and decide. Because in the end, life does not remember the ones who hid from pressure. It remembers the ones who, when the world grew heavy, stood taller than the weight pressing down on them. And you, if you dare, can be one of them. Pressure sharpens the edges of your character in ways peace never could. Peace nurtures, but pressure defines. You will never truly know the depth of your strength until it is demanded of you, until the walls close in, until hesitation could cost everything. It is there, in the furnace, that the raw, unrefined version of you is burned away, and what remains is unshakable, undeniable, unstoppable. Every human being has a breaking point, but the remarkable thing is that the breaking point is not fixed. It is flexible. With each test, each choice, each stand under fire, your threshold expands. What would have broken you last year becomes this year's warm-up. What once terrified you becomes your training ground. This is the cycle of pressure. It doesn't disappear. It evolves with you constantly asking, can you carry more? And the answer, if you keep growing, is always yes. Look at history. Leaders who bent under pressure became footnotes. Leaders who stood tall under pressure became legends. When the world expected Winston Churchill to negotiate, to soften, to bend to tyranny, he chose defiance. His voice steadied a nation on the brink of collapse. He didn't make the easy choice. He made the defining one. Pressure demanded clarity, and he answered. That is the mark of greatness, not that he faced no fear, but that he chose courage while fear screamed louder. So the question is not whether you will feel fear. You will. The question is whether you will allow fear to dictate your choice, or whether you will acknowledge it and then choose anyway. That is the essence of courage, not the absence of fear, but the refusal to let fear become the author of your destiny. When you feel your hands tremble, when your throat tightens, when your stomach knots under pressure, pause, breathe, tell yourself, this is the feeling of life demanding more of me. This is the fire where greatness is forged. By reframing pressure as privilege, you strip fear of its power. You transform what once felt unbearable into the very doorway to your evolution. And what of failure? Many fear that wrong choices under pressure will ruin them. But failure is not the enemy. Failure is the refinement. Every failure under pressure carves wisdom into your soul. It teaches you to listen closer to your instincts, to strengthen your preparation, to sharpen your vision. The only true failure is to refuse to choose at all, because indecision breeds paralysis, and paralysis robs you of momentum. Action, even imperfect action, gives you feedback, gives you power, gives you progress. Remember, this life rewards the decisive. Opportunity does not wait for your comfort. It rewards your courage. When you hesitate, doors close. When you act, new doors open. Under pressure, perfection is not required. Movement is. Discipline is your weapon here. In the heat of pressure, emotion will try to rule you. Doubt will scream. Temptation will call. But if you have trained discipline in the quiet hours, if you have practiced choosing the harder right over the easier wrong, then when the moment arrives, your body and mind will respond with steadiness. Discipline creates automatic courage. It is the silent preparation that turns chaos into clarity. You will know you are growing when pressure no longer feels like suffocation, but like a challenge. When you begin to say, good, this means I'm ready for more. That is when you are no longer a victim of pressure, you are its master. Do not run from these moments. Seek them. The greater your vision, the greater the pressure required to shape you for it. You cannot demand a life of impact while asking for comfort. The two cannot coexist. If you want to leave a mark, if you want to become a force that others remember, you must welcome the furnace. You must decide that every test, every crushing weight, every hard choice is part of the molding process of destiny. And when the pressure comes again, and it will, you will stand taller, breathe deeper, decide faster. You will not collapse. You will not retreat. You will smile into the storm and say, I was made for this. Because the truth is, simple diamonds are not born in silence, they are born in pressure. And so are you. Pressure is the invisible hand that separates those who drift through life from those who dominate it. It does not ask for permission. It does not wait for your timing. It arrives like a storm unannounced, overwhelming and merciless. And in that storm the weak curse it, but the strong recognize it as the very forge of destiny. Do you think Andrew Carnegie built an empire in the calm? Do you think Thomas Edison discovered light while resting in comfort? Do you think Lincoln held a fractured nation together in an atmosphere of peace numb? Every defining achievement in human history was born out of relentless pressure, moments when the easier choice was surrender, and yet they chose to stand. Pressure is not a punishment, it is the price of greatness. But let me tell you something deeper. Pressure is not merely external. The greatest pressure you will ever face is the war within. The pressure to silence your own self-doubt. The pressure to quiet the voice that says, you're not enough. You'll fail. They'll laugh. The external world can crush your body, but only your inner voice can destroy your destiny. And this is where mastery begins, not in controlling the chaos outside, but in commanding the dialogue inside. Napoleon Hill spoke of autosuggestion, of feeding the subconscious until it believes in victory. Why? Because under pressure, the conscious mind falters. It freezes, it panics, it looks for escape. But the subconscious, the beliefs you have rehearsed, the affirmations you have repeated, the vision you have burned into your spirit will act without hesitation. Pressure activates your programming. That is why the disciplined rise. They have written faith into their very reflexes. Think of an athlete standing at the free throw line with seconds left on the clock, the stadium roaring, millions watching. That moment is pressure in its purest form. The difference between collapse and calm is not talent, it is training. If he has rehearsed 1,000 times, his body does not ask, "Can I do this?" It simply executes. Life is no different. Under pressure, you will default not to your hopes, but to your preparation. This is why daily discipline is not negotiable. Every morning you choose clarity over chaos, gratitude over complaint, persistence over apathy. You are writing your code. And when pressure presses play, that code will dictate your destiny. But understand, this making better choices under pressure is not about never feeling fear. It is about choosing despite it. Fear will always be present. Doubt will always whisper. But courage is forged when you recognize their presence and act anyway. Courage is not the absence of trembling hands. It is the decision to move forward with trembling hands. The modern world offers endless distractions, endless escapes from pressure. You can drown yourself in entertainment, in noise and excuses, but escape is an illusion. The pressure you avoid today compounds into regret tomorrow. And regret is the heaviest pressure of all, the pressure of knowing you could have acted, but didn't. You could have chosen, but hesitated. You could have built, but delayed. So let every test become sacred. Let every moment of pressure remind you life believes you are capable of more. Do not despise it. Do not curse it. Meet it with steady breath and say, "This is my training ground. This is where I rise." Because in the end, when the final chapter of your life is written, no one will remember the easy days. They will remember the storms you endured, the decisions you made under fire, the times you chose to act when hesitation would have been easier. They will remember how you carried the weight of pressure and turned it into power. And the greatest reward is not the world's recognition. It is the man or woman you become in the process. Pressure does not just change circumstances, it transforms souls. It turns hesitation into decisiveness, weakness into resilience, doubt into unshakable faith. So when the next test comes, and it will stand tall, feel the fire breathe through it and decide. For pressure does not crush the ones who embrace it, it crowns them. Pressure is life's most honest mirror. It does not reflect who you wish to be or the mask you show to others. It reflects exactly who you are in the moment of decision. You can convince the world of your strength when the seas are calm, but when the storm rises and the deck tilts beneath your feet, no pretense survives. The choice you make in that moment is the truth about you. And this is where transformation begins, because truth, though painful, is power. When you see yourself hesitate, when you hear yourself surrender, when you feel yourself shrink under pressure, that is not condemnation, it is revelation. It is life showing you the work that must be done. Most people run from this mirror. They numb it, distract from it, bury it. But the strong, the relentless, the destined lean in. They look at the reflection of their own fear and say, "Good. Now I know where to grow." You see, pressure is not here to break you. It is here to introduce you to the parts of yourself you have not yet mastered. The fear that still controls you. The impatience that still sabotages you. The doubt that still whispers. Without pressure, you would never meet these enemies. You would drift comfortably unaware of the battle within. But under pressure, they reveal themselves. And once revealed, they can be conquered. That is why greatness is forged in discomfort. It is why the most powerful minds in history sought out challenge instead of ease. Look at Lincoln, haunted by depression, crushed by loss, ridiculed by rivals, yet he stood firm in the face of a nation tearing itself apart. He did not wait for calm, he led in chaos. Or consider Edison, surrounded by mountains of failure. His name mocked, his work dismissed. Pressure did not silence him, it sharpened him until the light broke through. These men did not curse the weight, they lifted it, and by lifting it, they became more than men. They became symbols of resilience. But what about you? What about now, the pressure you feel, the decision looming, the risk ahead, the uncertainty gnawing at you is not random. It is not punishment. It is your moment of definition. The world is asking you, will you choose fear or faith? Will you fold into hesitation or rise into decisiveness? The mind will scream for relief. Wait until it's safer. Wait until you know more. Wait until you're stronger. But waiting is the slowest form of death. Opportunity never waits. Growth never waits. Life is not patient with the hesitant. While you stall, the moment fades, the door closes, and you are left with regret as your only companion. Better to act and adjust than to freeze and fade. Better to step boldly into the unknown than to waste your life calculating risk until the chance has passed. Napoleon Hill wrote that indecision is the thief of opportunity, and it is. Pressure will tempt you to wait, but pressure also rewards the one who moves. This is why definiteness of purpose matters. When your purpose is clear, decisions become simple even under pressure. Fear may still whisper, but clarity drowns it out. You don't ask, what if I fail? You ask, does this move me toward my purpose? And if the answer is yes, you choose no matter the risk. Purpose transforms pressure from chaos into compass. But clarity does not come by accident. It is forged in reflection, in vision, in daring to write your desires so vividly that no pressure can erase them. That is why imagination is sacred. Before anything exists in the physical, it exists in the mental. The person who can hold vision under pressure is the one who bends reality toward it. Edison imagined light, Ford imagined mass production, Carnegie imagined steel cities. They saw it when no one else could, and when pressure came they clung to that vision as if it were oxygen. What about your vision? Can you see it clearly enough that pressure cannot blind you? Can you imagine it so vividly that no fear can shake it? That is the secret, not to eliminate pressure, but to anchor your mind in something stronger. And then comes discipline. Discipline is the bridge between vision and action. Under pressure, when emotion threatens to hijack your choice. Discipline takes the wheel. It says, we do not negotiate with fear, we follow through. We persist. The disciplined man is not free from pressure. He is simply unshaken by it. He has rehearsed strength until it is instinct. But discipline alone is not enough. You must also cultivate resilience. Because not every choice under pressure will be perfect. You will stumble. You will choose wrong. You will fail. And in that moment, the pressure will double, whispering, "See, you weren't ready. You should give up." But resilience answers, failure is not final. Every fall teaches me. Every mistake strengthens me. I will rise again. This is the rhythm of mastery, pressure, choice, failure, resilience, growth. Again and again until you no longer fear the weight because you have become heavier than the pressure itself. And then gratitude. Gratitude transforms the entire journey. Without it, pressure feels like punishment. With it, pressure feels like privilege. Gratitude says, this weight means I'm alive in a moment that matters. This test means life trusts me with more. Thank you for this chance to grow. Gratitude turns fear into faith, pain into progress, obstacles into opportunities. It does not remove the pressure, but it changes you in the presence of it. So when the next wave of pressure comes, and it will remember it is not your enemy. It is your proving ground. Do not curse it, do not run. Breathe, stand tall, choose with clarity. For every choice you make under pressure is not just a decision, it is a declaration of who you are becoming. And one day, when you look back, you will not remember the easy choices. You will remember the moments you stood in the fire, trembling, uncertain, afraid, and chose anyway. Those are the choices that define a life. Pressure is not the curse most people believe it to be. It is the currency of growth. Every ounce of greatness you will ever achieve must be purchased with it. You cannot buy resilience with comfort. You cannot buy wisdom with ease. You cannot buy courage with safety. The only accepted payment is pressure. The moments where your heart races, your palms sweat, and your mind screams for relief. Yet you choose to act with clarity anyway. If you study those who altered history, you will notice a pattern. They were not spared from pressure. They were defined by it. Lincoln at Gettysburg, his nation bleeding and divided standing to remind the people that freedom and unity were worth the cost. Edison in his workshop, failures piling higher than hope, deciding again and again to persist when every logical voice told him to quit. Harriet Tubman, carrying the weight of freedom on her shoulders, choosing to lead others through the shadows even while hunted. None of them had the luxury of calm. None of them waited for certainty. All of them acted under the crushing weight of pressure. And because of that, they became immortal in legacy. And now, the same law is at work in your life. Every choice you make under pressure is not a small event. It is part of the architecture of your destiny. The question is not, will pressure come? The question is, when it comes, will I bow to it or will I build with it? The world belongs to those who decide quickly and clearly, even when the ground shakes beneath them. That's why, because pressure rewards momentum. The mind that hesitates creates its own prison. Think of the countless opportunities lost, not because the person lacked ability, but because they lacked the courage to decide. They waited for perfect conditions, for certainty, for safety, and while they waited, the moment evaporated. Understand this, there is no perfect condition. The universe hides your next chapter behind a wall of uncertainty, and the only way to access it is to push through the pressure guarding it. Those who wait never break through. Those who act discover that clarity appears after movement, not before. But how do you stand steady in the fire? You train your inner world to be stronger than your outer world. This is where faith becomes your shield. Not a vague belief in luck, but a concrete trust in your ability to rise, to adapt, to overcome. Faith is the voice that says, even if I fail, I will not be finished. Even if I fall, I will rise stronger. Even if this choice costs me, it will refine me. With faith, pressure loses its power to paralyze you. And then imagination. Pressure collapses your vision into the present pain. Imagination stretches it into the future reward. When your mind wants to freeze on what could go wrong, imagination paints what could go right. When your body trembles at risk, imagination reminds you of victory. Those who win under pressure are those who can see beyond it. Edison didn't see broken filaments, he saw cities glowing with light. Ford didn't see ridicule, he saw ordinary families driving automobiles. They looked through the fire into the future, and that vision pulled them through. Discipline seals the deal. When emotions rise, discipline steadies the hand. When fear screams, discipline keeps you moving. Discipline is the pre-made choice that says, I don't negotiate with pressure. I persist. I follow through. I finish. And every act of discipline, especially in private, is a rehearsal for the pressure that will strike in public. You cannot fake discipline under fire, you must forge it before the flames. Yet even with vision, faith and discipline, you will not always choose perfectly. You will stumble. You will misstep. You will regret. And here, resilience becomes everything. Resilience is the choice to rise again, to treat pressure not as a one-time test, but as lifelong training. The resilient are not those who never fall, they are those who never stay down. Under pressure, resilience whispers, again, again, again. And gratitude transforms the battlefield entirely. Gratitude is the alchemy that turns pressure into privilege. Gratitude allows you to say, thank you for this test, thank you for this weight, thank you for trusting me with this moment. Gratitude shifts your identity from victim to victor, from someone cursed by pressure to someone crowned by it. So the next time pressure corners you when the decision seems impossible, when the weight seems unbearable, remember you are not being crushed, you are being carved. The diamond inside you demands this fire. The leader inside you requires this test. The stronger version of you is waiting on the other side of this choice. And when you make it, when you act, when you stand, when you decide, you will discover something profound. Pressure was never here to stop you. It was here to prove you. Pressure is not polite. It does not knock on your door and wait patiently for you to prepare. It arrives unannounced, like a storm breaking through the sky, demanding an answer right now. And in that moment, you cannot hide behind excuses, because pressure does not negotiate. It does not care about your comfort, your doubts, or your delays. It asks only one question: will you decide or will you drift? Most people drift. They fold into hesitation, telling themselves they'll decide tomorrow. But tomorrow is a lie pressure will not allow. Tomorrow never arrives, and so their lives remain stagnant, full of almosts, full of nearlys, full of dreams that died in the waiting room of indecision. But the rare few, the relentless, the ones who rise into greatness, they understand the secret pressure is not a wall, it is a door. And though the door is heavy, though it requires strength, though it demands courage, once you push it open, you discover a new room, a larger life, a higher version of yourself, waiting on the other side. Consider Abraham Lincoln once more. Surrounded by critics who told him he was unfit to lead, facing losses in war that humiliated the Union, drowning in grief over the death of his child every day was suffocating pressure. And yet, under that weight, he made choices that preserved the very idea of a nation. Do you understand the magnitude of that? He could have buckled, he could have yielded, but he didn't. His choices under pressure wrote history itself. And this law applies not just to presidents and inventors, it applies to you. Every time you choose faith instead of fear, action instead of hesitation, clarity instead of confusion, you write history, the history of your own life. And though the world may not build statues of you, your children will remember, your community will feel it. Your soul will testify. I stood when it mattered. Do not underestimate the battlefield of the inner voice. Under pressure, the mind becomes louder than the world around you. It whispers every reason to quit, to delay, to run. But there is another voice, a quieter one, that says, trust, act, decide. The battle is not about eliminating fear. It is about amplifying faith until it drowns out fear's scream. Napoleon Hill was relentless in teaching that definiteness of purpose is the anchor. Why? Because when pressure mounts the undefined collapse. If you don't know where you're going, every crossroad feels like chaos. But if your purpose is clear, then pressure does not paralyze you, it points you. You stop asking, what if I fail, and start asking, will this move me closer to my vision? That single shift is the difference between drifting and dominating. But let us be honest, pressure hurts. It will make your chest heavy, your body tremble, your mind race. It feels like drowning in a sea of uncertainty. And yet, what is the alternative? To live without pressure is to live without growth. To avoid pressure is to avoid evolution. And a life without growth is not a life, it is survival at best, slow death at worst. So embrace the wait. Learn to breathe in the fire. Learn to welcome the storm. Pressure is not the enemy, it is the training ground. And if you keep showing up, if you keep choosing when others hesitate, if you keep deciding when others delay, one day you will wake up and realize the pressure that once terrified you is now the very force that empowers you. Because here is the ultimate truth. Pressure is not here to test your weakness, it is here to reveal your strength. Pressure is the moment of truth. It is the instant when everything you've said you believe, everything you've claimed you want, everything you've dreamed of becoming collides with reality. And in that collision, one question echoes louder than all others. Will you rise or will you retreat? History remembers those who chose to rise. Edison chose to rise when failure screamed 1,000 times louder than success. Lincoln chose to rise when an entire nation threatened to collapse into chaos. Harriet Tubman chose to rise when every step carried the weight of death, but every step forward carried the promise of freedom. They were not spared the fire. They embraced it. And in doing so, they discovered a truth that most never will. Pressure does not crush the chosen, it crowns them. And now the fire stands before you. You will feel the heat, you will feel the fear, you will feel the pull of hesitation. But know this hesitation is the silent assassin of dreams. Indecision is the graveyard of greatness. Pressure is not asking you to be fearless, it is asking you to be faithful. Faithful to your vision, faithful to your purpose, faithful to the whisper inside that tells you this is the moment, decide. Because every choice under pressure is a vote for the person you are becoming. Choose weakness and weakness grows. Choose courage and courage becomes your identity. And over time, those choices compound until you wake up one day and realize, I am no longer the same. I am no longer fragile. I am no longer held hostage by fear. I have been forged into something unshakable. This is why pressure is sacred. It is life's way of saying, I trust you with more. It is the universe handing you the weight of destiny and asking, can you carry it? And though your knees may tremble, though your chest may ache, though your mind may scream, you can. You can carry it. You can rise beneath it. You can become the person worthy of it. So the next time you feel pressure tighten around you, do not curse it. Do not flee from it. Look it in the eye and declare, I was made for this. I will not bow. I will not break. I will decide with clarity. I will act with courage. I will walk through this fire and emerge greater than I entered. Because in the end, it is not the calm that defines you. It is the storms you faced, the choices you made under unbearable weight, the times you refused to drift when pressure demanded a decision. That is where identity is forged. That is where destiny is written. And one day, when you look back at your life, you will not remember the easy days. You will remember the days when your chest burned, your hands shook, your mind raced, and yet you chose anyway. Those choices will stand as monuments, proof that you did not run, proof that you did not fold, proof that when pressure called your name, you answered. So decide, act, stand tall in the fire, because the world does not bow to the hesitant. The world bows to the relentless. And you, if you dare to choose in the face of pressure, will become one of them.